Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another weekly price action review. So I'm going to get into this pretty quickly and hopefully not take too much of your listening time, but get straight to the sort of meats and bones of the things that I was looking at last week, and then sort of just delve into some of those touch points with an overview and analysis. Now, there may be a bit of repetition in some of the things that I'll say, but that's just more so to hit home with certain points in relation to key signatures or key price levels and that sort of stuff. So, on the weekly chart here, and following previous week's price action, where I had noted that the market obviously had traded lower before rebounding, and we know that there was some fundamental news factors that related to that, and also I think it was the earnings of many companies during that week as well, which also contributed to some of the volatility we saw that week. But ultimately, the price traded lower and then rebounded back into the weekly range. And then furthermore, we still had this high time frame cracking correlation at the lows in effect. Although, admittedly, if we look at this week, I was anticipating this impulse leg to purge the highs, but again, order flow. I think order flow relative to this time frame remains bullish despite price being in this range from this high down to this low. So it's still in this range, but I would still maintain a bullish posture for the time being. So I was anticipating a continuation of bullish PA, targeting these stacked liquidity pools and large liquidity pools at the highs. So that was obviously my high time frame draw, but in reality, the market gapped down, as we can see, closing here and opening here. So the market gapped down to start the week, and again, that was to do with some economic factors around the Trump tariffs in relation to Mexico and Canada. But ultimately, the market traded down, noted this high time frame cracking correlation, which we'll see on the daily time frame commentary, and that set the stage for higher prices. And then obviously we see that the market repriced higher during the week, and then until NFP, where again we noted a high time frame cracking correlation at the highs. I believe that was with YM, which saw obviously price reprice lower back into the weekly range. So not a lot of key levels here on the weekly time frame, not required. But ultimately, that's what I had outlined, was that I wanted to see, or my anticipation was seeing higher prices. Okay, so if we drop down to the the daily time frame. So ultimately, we are looking now at these few days in here. So following on from that weekly commentary, again, my anticipation was higher prices based on the confluences that just discussed. The market opened gap down, so we can see how the market ultimately closed a lot higher, closed in a lot of the gap, and then continues to reprice higher. But ultimately gap down below, if we imagine this line here, this weekly open, and ultimately trading into this BISI daily, where we note this high time frame cracking correlation in the form of SMT with NQ. Okay, and there were this ultimately was coupled with some of the low time frame confluences that I look out to set the stage for higher prices. The market obviously immediately repriced higher to close out that day, and ultimately we see the market continue to reprice higher. Now, obviously on this day here, we see how the market traded down and then continued higher. Wednesday, market continues higher, and and ultimately the market trades up into this volume imbalance daily before we see this high time frame cracking correlation at the highs, with NQ literally wicking above its previous week's high, but that's enough to form this SMT with ES, and it set the stage at the NFP release. Although this occurred slightly after that, it set the stage for lower prices in the market to trade back into the weekly range. Okay, so not a lot here. So as we delve into the 4 hour and down, we'll be able to just sort of get into the weeds just a little bit more, especially around probably the 4 hours. Probably going to give us a lot of the nuance. So a little bit more lipstick here now as it pertains to the 4 hour time frame. Okay, so let's step through this. So again, as detailed on the daily and on the weekly, the market opened and a gap down, as we can see here. Market gaps down. Trades below this true week open, which formed here on this candle Sunday open, and ultimately it trades down into this BISI daily. Okay, we purged this previous weekly low here as well, so key liquidity pool has been purged, forming this high time frame SMT with NQ, and that set the stage for higher prices. Okay, we then see the market displace higher on Monday, and ultimately forms this bullish BISI. Okay, now the market then trades down into the BISI, where we know it's PDA SMT with NQ here, and that is the catalyst that ultimately price aggressively reprices higher for the remainder of the day, and pretty much closing in the majority of this liquidity void from the gap down. Okay, now it's important to note as well that this move higher confirmed the H4 time frame order flow as bullish, following the support of the high time cracking correlations at the low. Okay, so that's important. And also as well, what we can see here is how the H4, the bodies of the candles, did not close inside of that BISI. So again, another confluence of supporting higher prices. So following Monday's price action, we see now, so into Tuesday, we see how the market trades down into, so we've had the confirmation up here of the true week open, so we're below the true week open. Market trades down into this BISI H4, and in actual fact it trades down into a discount of this previous day's range. Okay, and this fair value gap here is obviously overlaying, so let's just take a quick look at that just for completeness. There you go, so there's the 50% running pretty much at CE of that fair value gap. Okay, so trades down into this BISI H4, where again we note the bodies of the candles. So if we roughly take a stab at halfway, which is around there, we know that the bodies of the candles are respecting CE of this BISI H4, and so again this is another signature supporting the idea of higher prices. Okay, then we see the market displace higher here, and at the close of this candle here we see the confirmation of this inversion fair value gap formed. Okay, so we now have Tuesday this form, and we have this range now form. So if we were looking at the range, we have this and that. Look at that balanced price range forms directly at at equilibrium of that daily range. So on Wednesday, the market trades down into the, as I said, into a discount, as we saw, of the previous daily range, which was from previous daily low to essentially this relative equal highs, previous daily high. And more specifically, it trades down into this balanced price range where we see the bodies of the candles respecting. See, now, full disclosure, this was a mistrade for me, and I'm really gutted, because typically I tend to, especially the way that I trade, I'm of the belief, especially when it's NFP, between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and a lot of the time I kind of look at it as Tuesday and Wednesday, but you can't rule out Monday. The market's going to present a really sound opportunity, and unfortunately for me, I had some errands to run, and this was the opportunity that I missed, but we'll still look into it a little bit. So ultimately the market trades down into the BPR, whereby I was anticipating strength, and this PDA to hold price following the confirmation down here of and how we've seen bullish fair value gaps being supported, right? So that for me, we had already seen one CB here be inverted and then obviously form this BPR. So I was anticipating the same thing to occur here as well, with order flow being bullish. Excuse me, with an established high time frame drawn liquidity being previous weekly high potentially. So again, we see, as I said, we see the bodies of the candles respect. Before then, I know this high time frame SMT slash low time frame SMT. So it's one of those, and this set the stage for higher prices. Then the market aggressively reprices higher, and ultimately purges the relative equal highs, and trades on into a premium of this range and above true week open. Okay, so prior to NFP, which occurred here on Friday, we noted this consolidation day, and you know, we typically anticipate this the day before NFP. It doesn't always happen, but we anticipate it nonetheless. However, it's important to know that the market traded down into the lower of these two BISIs, but look again at the bodies of the candles respecting the upper BISI, and that confirms support, or certainly H4 order flow still being bullish at this point in time. Okay, so the market forms this PDA SMT with NQ at this BISI, obviously, and this was confirmed by low time frame confluences, and this ultimately set the stage for higher prices on the day, and the market trades higher. And then we have this previous day's high. Now, I made a bit of a faux pas here during the trading week where I didn't really pay enough attention to realize that this was actually a previous day's high, so I kind of downgraded it to an old high H4, but actually it was a previous day's high and setting the stage for the likely direction of NFP. But that's neither here nor there. So on Friday, we see how the market purges this previous day's high, trading higher into this H4 SIBI above the marketplace, whilst at the time NQ traded higher and actually purged its previous weekly high. So this formed this high time frame SMT at the highs, monthly cycle SMT at the highs, whilst we also had the SMT here with YM on a slightly lower time frame at the highs, and with price being above the true week and true month open, this clearly indicated the market being overbought and the likelihood of the market rejecting and repricing lower. So the market ultimately displaces lower aggressively now, purging this BCH4 and purging the second one, and then essentially closing lower to close the week. So that was the H4 narration. And typically during the week, H4 is where I spend most, I wouldn't say most of my time, but certainly from a high time frame perspective, H4. Okay, so more specific, so we're just going to touch on a couple of things here. So again, on Monday, we know about the gapping down and what it was caused in terms of the Trump tariffs, and the market trading below the weekly open and into this BISI daily. We note the high time frame cracking correlation here, setting that stage for higher prices. And then ultimately the market reprices higher and forms the London high. And then we obviously see this consolidation in price. We do form this SSLH1, but obviously we're seeing this consolidation in price till we get to the 10 o'clock news, where the market manipulates lower, purges the SSH H1, and also, you know, technically trading down into this BISI H4, before the market then aggressively displaces higher. So continuing higher, ultimately, so we get a bit of chop here, but then ultimately it's repricing higher to form the high of the day. Okay, and then we ultimately see the market then close at that point, before we head into a new day where we see this retracement lower. So following the confirmation of the true week open, which is here, okay, we see how the market during Asia reprices lower. It trades lower, down into this BISI H4, where it ultimately sets the low of the day. Okay, and we can see where true day open was here, market trades down, sets the low of the day. Okay, then we see this just a little bit of consolidation, but this failed failure swing. Bear with me a second. Okay, so we see this failure swing here, and also this represented symmetrical price action. Therefore, there was no trade opportunity in here for me to engage the market. Then the market obviously continues higher, but it failed to purge this previous day's high. We get relative equal highs here, as we noted on the H4 time frame. So this is likely to be a target into the following day. So as we know now into Wednesday, how the market pre-open began to reprice lower gradually, below the true day open, and ultimately into a discount of this daily range. Okay, the market then began to reprice higher, purge this London high, okay, before at the second, so it continues higher, then at the second high impact news driver, the market manipulates lower, purging this SSL M15, ultimately creating high time frame SMT here, or low time frame SMT as well, whichever, which was confirmed by low time frame confluences, and then the market displaced higher, and this was where I missed the trade. This would have been a beautiful trade higher, would have delivered at least 2R trade, maybe a little bit more, would have been really nice, but you know, we keep it moving. So trades higher, purges the previous day's high, and continuing higher and close out higher on the day. Okay, so then the day before NFP, Thursday here. We can see how the market's pretty much consolidated the entire day all the way to the New York PM session. But we can see how the market set a London high in here, set a London low around here, and the market purged the London low. We see it reprice higher, create a failure swing here, but ultimately purging the London high, failure swing to the previous day's high. Sorry, apologies, because this hasn't been formed yet, but ultimately the market purges the London high. So already we've seen both sides of the London range being purged. So that is indicative of a likely seek and destroy profile. So we continue that until we get to the PM session where the market trades down, purges the SSL AM, so the New York AM session low, where the market trades down obviously into that BCH4 where we see the PDA SMT with NQ setting the stage for higher prices. And then the market ultimately reprices higher to form the high of the day. And that's pretty much it there. And so then we get into Friday, we got NFP. Market opens, starts to sets the London low, starts to reprice higher. In a consolidated fashion. This is not a sort of a sustained move. It's just a consolidated trending piece of price action where it's repricing higher. And then ultimately at the NFP numbers, the market trades higher, purging far more deeply the previous day's high. So we get this move further to consume the liquidity above here. And we then get this overlay of two forms of high time frame cracks and correlation setting the stage for lower prices. The market then displaces aggressively lower, purging this London low and trading to and through both these BISIs to close out the week. So very interesting week. This was a week where patience certainly paid. I was extremely disappointed to miss this trade because I think that's what I was setting up for, and it would have been a beautiful trade to have taken. But unfortunately, I wasn't in front of the charts. But, you know, we keep it moving. We keep doing this to learn from those kinds of mistakes, and then we put things in play to help us engage the next time. So that brings this to an end. Hopefully you've taken something away from that. That's the overview of how I saw the market, the key price levels, key signatures, key high time frame signatures as well, and ultimately just an overlay of what the market, in my opinion, was doing this past week. So order flow was predominantly bullish. We can see that through the H4 levels that were supported in alignment, got in alignment with that, and then obviously on Friday with NFP we saw the higher time frame crack and correlation, the market repriced lower. I still believe that indices are likely to go higher, but we'll just have to wait and see if that's the case. If not, we will work accordingly with how we carry out our technical analysis and identify if that bias has switched, and then we'll get in alignment with it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully you've taken something away, and I will catch you guys in the next one.